If someone had told me 30 years ago that at 62, I'd wake up each morning with joints so stiff I could barely hold my teacup, I'd have chuckled and waved them off. Life, though, has a way of sneaking up on you, tossing surprises that hit harder than a Pacific Northwest storm. My name is Evelyn Marshall, and for nearly 4 decades, I taught third graders in Portland, Oregon. Not the flashiest job, I know, but there was something magical about watching those little faces light up when they finally grasped a new word or solved a math problem. I retired 2 years ago, trading chalkboards for quiet mornings in my small wooden house, a gift from my mother, who always called it our family's heart. It's a cozy place, built in the 1950s, with creaky stairs, a wraparound porch, and windows that frame the rosebushes I tend like old friends. The garden's my sanctuary now, though my hands, knotted with rheumatoid arthritis, don't always cooperate. Every morning starts the same. I shuffle out of bed, wincing as my knees protest, and check my joints for swelling. 10 years with this disease have taught me to listen to my body, even when it's whispering things I don't want to hear. I brew chamomile tea, unsweetened, and sit by the kitchen window, watching the mist settle over Portland's evergreens. The house feels too big for just me. 3 bedrooms, a living room with a stone fireplace, and a garden that stretches farther than I can manage alone. My mother used to say, "Evelyn, this house is more than walls. It's our story." I never quite understood her then, but her words linger, heavy with meaning. I'm only starting to unravel. Teaching was my life, but my daughter Lily was my world. I raised her alone after my divorce from Raymond, her father, when she was 14. 18 years of marriage, undone by quiet disagreements that grew louder until we were strangers, sharing a roof. Raymond, a construction engineer with a laugh that could fill a room, moved to Seattle after we split. I stayed here, in this house, pouring everything into Lily. Every late-night math tutoring session, every school play I clapped too loudly for. I turned down a chance to move to Seattle for a better job, even said no to a kind widower who proposed when Lily was in high school. She needed me, I told myself. A teenager navigating her parents' divorce needed stability, not her mother chasing dreams. Lily's 34 now, a successful interior designer with a sharp eye and sharper tongue. She's married to Nathan, a businessman who's always chasing the next big deal. They live across town, in a sleek condo that looks like it belongs in a magazine. But our relationship, it's frayed, like a quilt left out in the rain. Lily visits rarely, and when she does, there's a distance in her eyes. She glanced around my house, at the faded curtains or the chipped teapot, and say things like, "Mom, you're stuck in the 90s. Nathan's worst. He smirks, calls my garden charming in a way that feels like a jab. I smile through it, an old habit from my mother, who'd say, "Evelyn, smile even when your heart's heavy. It keeps you steady." This morning was like any other. I struggled out of bed, my fingers stiff as I fumbled for my glasses. The mirror showed a woman I barely recognized, sometimes gray hair tucked into a loose bun, wrinkles etched deep around hazel eyes, a face that carries both my mother's warmth and my father's stubbornness. I dressed simply, a cardigan, loose slacks, and comfortable shoes, my teaching wardrobe, as Lily once teased, frozen in time. Breakfast was oatmeal and tea, eaten alone at the kitchen table. The silence of the house pressed in, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator and the distant chirp of chickadees outside. I was watering my roses when Lily called. Her voice was clipped, rushed, like she was checking a task off a list. "Mom, Nathan and I are coming by tonight. We need to talk about something important." My stomach tightened. Lily's important. Talks usually meant criticism about my house, my health, my old-fashioned ways. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, keeping my voice light. "I'll make dinner." "No need," she replied quickly. "We'll eat before we come." Another small rejection, sharp as a paper cut. I hung up, staring at the roses, their petals soft against the gray sky. My mother's words echoed again. "This house is our story." I didn't know then how soon I'd need to fight to keep that story alive, or how Lily's visit would turn my world upside down. That evening, I stood in my kitchen, chopping carrots for a stew. I knew Lily and Nathan wouldn't eat. Old habits die hard, I suppose. The house smelled of rosemary and simmering broth, a warmth that felt out of place with the knot in my chest. Lily's call had left me uneasy, her voice so sharp, so final. I glanced at the clock. 6:30 p.m. They'd be here soon. I smoothed my cardigan, trying to steady my nerves, and set the table anyway. 3 plates, 3 glasses, a pitcher of water with lemon slices. A small act of hope. The doorbell rang, sharp against the quiet. I opened the door to find Lily, her auburn hair sleek and perfect, wearing a tailored blazer that screamed success. Nathan stood beside her, tall and polished in a gray suit, his smile more businesslike than warm. "Mom," Lily said, stepping inside without a hug, "you didn't need to cook." Her eyes flicked to the kitchen, then around the living room, landing on the faded floral sofa. I saw that look again, disapproval, like my home was a museum of things she'd outgrown. "It's no trouble," I said, forcing a smile. "Come in, sit down." Nathan followed Lily, his loafers clicking on the hardwood. "Charming as ever, Evelyn," he said, gesturing at the room. Charming, that word again, dripping with condescension. I bit my tongue, remembering my mother's advice. Smile, Evelyn, even when it hurts. We sat in the living room, the fire crackling softly. Lily perched on the edge of the sofa, her posture stiff, while Nathan leaned back, one arm draped over her shoulder. "So," Lily began, her voice brisk, "we wanted to talk about your future, Mom." My fingers tightened around my teacup. "My future?" I asked, keeping my tone light. Nathan jumped in, his smile too wide. "You're not getting any younger, Evelyn. This house, it's a lot to manage. The stairs, the garden, all that upkeep. And with your arthritis," he trailed off, as if the rest was obvious. Lily nodded. "We've found a wonderful retirement community, Mom. Willow Grove. It's modern, with medical staff, activities, people your age. You'd love it." I set my cup down, the clink louder than I intended. "I'm perfectly fine here," I said, my voice steady but firm. "This is my home." Lily sighed, like I was a child refusing bedtime. "Mom, be realistic. You're 62, living alone, with a chronic illness. What if something happens? What if you fall and there's no one to help?" Her words stung, not because they were wrong, but because they felt rehearsed, like a sales pitch. Nathan chimed in. "Willow Grove has a lovely garden. Evelyn, you could still grow your roses." "I grow my roses here," I said, sharper than I meant. "And I've managed my arthritis for 10 years. I don't need to move." Lily's eyes narrowed, a flash of impatience. "You're being stubborn. We're just trying to make things easier for you. Easier for me, or for them." I wanted to ask, but the words stuck in my throat. The rest of their visit was strained small talk about their condo, Nathan's latest deal, Lily's design projects. They left without touching the stew, and I sat alone, staring at the untouched plates, feeling like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. 2 days later, my arthritis flared up worse than it had in years. My knees swelled, my hands locked into claws, and a fever crept in, hot and relentless. I called my friend Susan, who drove me to the hospital, her voice soothing as I gripped the car door. "You'll be fine, Evie," she said, but her eyes were worried. At the hospital, the doctor confirmed it. A severe rheumatoid arthritis flare, complicated by an infection. "You'll need to stay a few days," he said. "We're starting for steroids and antibiotics." I nodded, too exhausted to argue, my body betraying me in ways I couldn't ignore. The hospital room was sterile, all white walls and beeping machines. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts drifting to Lily. She hadn't called since her visit, though I'd texted her about the hospital. No reply. The pain in my joints was bad, but the ache in my heart was worse. Had I been too harsh, too stubborn? Like she said, my mother's words echoed. This house is our story. But what was my story now, lying here alone? On the second night, I woke to voices outside my room, low, urgent. I recognized Lily's sharp tone, Nathan's smooth drawl. The door was ajar, their words slipping through like shards of glass. "It's the perfect time," Nathan was saying. "She's in no state to argue. We sell the house, the car, and use the money for the studio. Willow Grove's deposit is already paid." Lily hesitated, then said, "She hated Nathan. But, you're right, she can't live alone anymore. That old Toyota's barely worth anything but the house. It's in a prime spot. We'll get a fortune." My breath caught. "Sell my house, my car." I strained to hear more, my heart pounding. "What about the power of attorney?" Lily asked. Nathan chuckled. "You've got it, babe. From her eye surgery 2 years ago. It's still valid. We handle everything while she's here, and by the time she's out, it's done." Lily's voice softened, almost guilty. Just want her safe, you know? But the studio, it's our dream. Nathan's reply was firm. This is how we make it happen, Lil. For us, for her. I lay there, frozen, as their voices faded down the hall. My home, the place where I'd raised Lily, where I'd scattered my mother's ashes in the garden, was just a dollar sign to them. My car, the one I'd driven to every parent-teacher meeting, every soccer game, was barely worth anything. And me, I was a problem to be solved, a burden to be tucked away in Willow Grove. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. The next evening, my phone rang. Lily's name lit up the screen. I hesitated, my thumb hovering, then answered. Mom. Her voice was bright, too bright, like she was selling me something. I've got great news. I stayed silent, waiting. Nathan and I are getting married again tomorrow. A vow renewal, just close friends. It's our 5th anniversary. You know, I forced a smile into my voice. That's wonderful, Lily. Congratulations. She barely paused. Oh, and one more thing. Your car and house are sold. We found buyers, great deals. Mom, you're all set for Willow Grove. Bye. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hands trembling. Sold. My home, my life, gone with a casual bye. The room spun, the beeping monitors louder, mocking. Lily's words replayed. Married again. Car sold. House sold. She hadn't even asked me. Hadn't even thought to. I thought of the power of attorney, that paper I'd signed without a second thought, trusting her, my daughter, my heart, had used it to strip away everything I had. I pressed the call button for the nurse, my chest tight. I need to make a call, I said, when she appeared, her kind eyes steadying me. To my ex-husband, Raymond's number was still in my phone, untouched, for years. As it rang, I pictured my garden, my roses, my mother's voice. This house is our story. And I wasn't ready to let that story end. Not like this. The hospital room felt like a cage. White walls, cold fluorescent lights, the constant beep of machines drilling into my skull. My hands, swollen and aching, lay useless on the starched sheets. The doctor's words echoed. Severe flare-up, infection. Stay a few days. I stared out the window at Portland's gray skyline, the city blurred by rain. My body had betrayed me, but it was Lily's betrayal that cut deeper. Her voice on the phone, so casual, so final. Your car and house are sold. I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the memory, but it clung to me like damp air. Rheumatoid arthritis had been my shadow for a decade. But this flare-up was different, vicious, unrelenting. The pain radiated from my knees to my fingers. A fire that steroids could only dull. I thought of my garden, the roses waiting for me, untended. Would they wither without me? Would everything I'd built just fade away? I'd spent 30 years teaching kids to believe in themselves, to fight for their dreams. Yet here I was, 62, wondering if I'd fought for anything of my own. My mind drifted to Lily, to the girl she used to be. She'd run to me after school, her pigtails bouncing, clutching a drawing of our house with its red door and sprawling garden. This is us, Mommy, she'd say, her smile brighter than any Portland sunrise. Where had that girl gone? When had she become this woman who saw me as a burden, a problem to solve with a check and a retirement home? I thought of the power of attorney I'd signed 2 years ago, before an eye surgery that never happened. I'd trusted her to care. Instead, she'd used it to dismantle my life. The door creaked open, and Margaret, the nurse, stepped in. She was about my age, with gray curls and eyes that crinkled with kindness. How's my favorite gardener doing? She asked, checking my IV. I managed a weak smile. Not much gardening from this bed. She chuckled, adjusting the drip. You'll be back to those roses soon, Evelyn. Just let us patch you up first. Her warmth felt like a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone saw me as broken. Margaret lingered, chatting about her own garden, her tomatoes, her battles with slugs. It was the first time I'd laughed in days. A small, rusty sound. You remind me of my friend Susan, I said. She's always fussing over her lavender. Margaret nodded. Sounds like a good friend. Anyone coming to visit you today? I hesitated, the truth heavy. Susan might. She brought me here, but my daughter's busy. Busy renewing her vows. Busy selling my home. I didn't say it out loud, but the words burned in my chest. After Margaret left, I lay back, staring at the ceiling. My life played out like a slide. Sawyer's, spent grading papers late into the night. Driving Lily to soccer practice, skipping vacations to save for her college fund. I'd turned down a marriage proposal from Tom, a fellow teacher, with a gentle laugh, because Lily had bristled at the idea of a stepfather. I'd told myself it was for her, that she needed me whole. But now, looking back, I wondered, had I given up too much? Had I lost myself trying to be the perfect mother? The thought of Lily's plan to sell my house, my car, to tuck me away in Willowgrove felt like a theft, not just of things, but of who I was. This house wasn't just wood and brick. It was where I'd read bedtime stories to Lily, where my mother taught me to prune roses, where I'd cried alone after Raymond left. It was my story, like my mother always said. And then it hit me, a memory, sharp and clear. My mother, sitting at the kitchen table, years ago, her hands folded around a mug of tea. "Evelyn," she'd said, "this house is protected. I made sure of it. A family trust, to keep it safe from anyone who'd try to take it away. A trust. I'd been so young, so caught up in raising Lily, I'd barely listened. Could that be my way out?" I reached for my phone, my fingers clumsy but determined. Raymond's number was still there, buried in my contacts. We hadn't spoken in years, not since Lily's wedding, where we'd exchanged polite nods across a crowded reception hall. He'd moved on, built a life in Seattle, but he'd always been kind, checking in on holidays, asking about my health. If anyone knew about the trust, it was him. My mother had trusted him, even after our divorce, insisting he stay part of the family's legacy. I took a deep breath and dialed. The phone rang twice before his voice came through, warm but surprised. "Evelyn, is everything okay?" My throat tightened, tears threatening to spill. "No, Raymond, it's not. I'm in the hospital. And Lily's trying to sell the house." There was a pause, then a sharp intake of breath. "What, without your consent?" I nodded, though he couldn't see me. "She says it's for my own good. They've got a power of attorney from years ago. They're moving. Fest already found buyers." My voice broke, and I hated how small it sounded. "That's not right," Raymond said, his tone firm, the way it used to be when he stood up for something he believed in. "What about the trust your mother set up? They can't sell without all the beneficiaries agreeing." "I'm still on that list, aren't I?" Relief washed over me, cool and grounding. "Yes," I said. "You are. So is my brother, David. I need your help, Raymond." Another pause, then his voice softened. "I'm coming to Portland, Evelyn. I'll be there tomorrow. We'll sort this out together." I hung up, my hands still trembling, but not from pain this time. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. Lily might think she could rewrite my story, but I wasn't done yet. My mother's trust, Raymond's support, my own stubborn heart, they were all I needed to fight back. I looked out the window, the rain slowing to a drizzle, and thought of my roses. They'd survive this storm. And so would I. The hospital discharged me on a drizzly Portland morning, the kind where the air smells of pine and wet earth. My joints still ached, but the steroids had tamed the worst of the flare-up. Raymond was waiting outside, leaning against a rental car, his gray hair damp from the rain. He looked older than I remembered, lines deeper around his eyes, shoulders a little stooped, but his smile was the same, warm and steady, like a lighthouse in a storm. "Evelyn," he said, opening the car door, "let's get you home." The drive was quiet, the city unfolding in soft greens and grays. I clutched the hospital discharge papers, my prescriptions tucked inside, and stole glances at Raymond. We hadn't seen each other in years, not since Lily's wedding, yet here he was, crossing state lines to help me. "Thank you," I said, finally, my voice small, "for coming." He glanced over, his eyes softening. "You'd have done the same for me, Evie. Besides, your mother would haunt me if I let anything happen to that house." We pulled up to my street, the familiar sight of my wooden house, stirring something deep in my chest. The roses were still there, a little droopy but alive, their red petals bright against the gray sky. I stepped out, leaning on Raymond's arm, and noticed something odd: Lily's sleek SUV parked in the driveway. My heart sank. "They're here," I said, more to myself than to Raymond. He nodded, his jaw tightening. "Let's go in." The front door was unlocked, which wasn't like me. I stepped inside and froze. The hallway was cluttered with boxes, sleek, labeled boxes, the kind you'd see in a high-end moving company. Lily's designer scarf hung on the coat rack. Next to Nathan's leather jacket, a stack of mail with their names sat on the side table. My home, my sanctuary, felt invaded, like strangers had claimed it while I was gone. Lily, I called, my voice sharper than I intended. Lily appeared from the living room, her face a mix of surprise and irritation. Mom, you're out already. Nathan followed, his smile tight, like he'd been caught doing something he shouldn't. Evelyn, good to see you, he said, too smoothly. Then his eyes landed on Raymond, and his smile faltered. Raymond, didn't expect you here. Raymond nodded, his expression calm but unyielding. Hello, Nathan. Lily, I'm here to help Evelyn with a few things. Let's sit, I said, my voice steady despite the anger simmering inside. We moved to the living room, where more changes hit me like a slap. My old throw pillows were gone, replaced with modern, geometric ones. A stack of interior design catalogs sat on the coffee table, next to paint swatches, in shades I'd never choose. Redecorating, I asked, sinking into my armchair, the one piece of furniture they hadn't touched. Lily shrugged, casual but guarded, just freshening things up. Mom, this place could use a modern touch. Raymond sat across from me, his presence grounding. Evelyn tells me you're planning to sell the house, he said, his tone even but pointed. Lily's eyes flicked to Nathan, then back to me. It's for your own good, Mom, she said, her voice rehearsed. You can't manage this place alone. Not with your health. Willow Grove is perfect, safe, comfortable, everything you need. Nathan nodded, and the house is in a great location. We've got buyers lined up ready to pay above market value. I took a deep breath, my hands gripping the armrests. And my car? I asked, my voice cold. Lily hesitated, then said, sold to a colleague of Nathan's. It's old, Mom, barely reliable, barely reliable. The Toyota had carried me through decades of life. Lily's school runs, my mother's doctor visits, my quiet drives to clear my head. And now it was gone, without so much as a conversation. Raymond leaned forward, his eyes locked on Lily. You didn't ask Evelyn's permission for any of this, did you? Lily bristled. I have power of attorney from her eye surgery. It gives me the right to make decisions for her. My stomach twisted. That paper, signed in a moment of trust, now felt like a noose. That was for medical decisions, I said, my voice rising. Not to sell my home out from under me. Nathan raised a hand, placating. Evelyn, calm down. We're doing this because we care. You're not well. You need supervision. I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised even me. Care? Is that what you call moving into my house, redecorating, selling my things, using the money for your design studio? Their faces froze, and I knew I'd hit the mark. Lily's cheeks flushed. Who told you that? She demanded. I heard you, I said, my voice steady now, fueled by anger. In the hospital, outside my room. You thought I was asleep, but I heard every word. The house, the car, the studio, all of it. Nathan shifted uncomfortably, but Lily's eyes narrowed. You're twisting this, Mom. We want you safe. The studio's just a bonus. A bonus? My life, reduced to a line item in their business plan. Raymond cleared his throat, his voice calm but firm. There's something you've overlooked, Lily. This house isn't just Evelyn's to sell. Lily frowned. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, the memory of my mother's words steadying me. This house is part of a family trust, I said. My mother set it up years ago to protect it. It can't be sold without the consent of all beneficiaries, me, Raymond, and my brother David. Lily's mouth opened, then closed. Nathan's smile vanished. A trust, he said, his voice tight. You never mentioned that. You never asked, I replied, my gaze locked on Lily. You were too busy deciding my life for me. Raymond nodded. I spoke to Judge Carter, who oversees the trust. He's ready to step in if anyone tries to sell without approval. And, I'm guessing you didn't consult him. Lily's face paled, and Nathan's jaw clenched. We've already signed a preliminary agreement, he said. The buyers paid a deposit. Then you'll have to return it, I said, my voice unwavering. Because this house isn't going anywhere, and neither am I. Lily stood, her hands balled into fists. You're being impossible, Mom. We're trying to help, and you're throwing it back in our faces. I stood too, ignoring the ache in my knees. Help doesn't mean taking away my choices, Lily. It means asking what I want, respecting me. Nathan stepped forward, his voice low. Evelyn, be reasonable. Who'll take care of you? Another flare-up could land you back in the hospital or worse. Raymond answered before I could. I'll be here for 2 weeks, to help Evelyn settle in. After that, we'll arrange a nurse to check on her. She doesn't need Willow Grove. Lily's eyes flashed with anger. You're siding with him, she snapped, glaring at Raymond. After he left us, Raymond's face softened, but his voice was firm. I didn't leave you, Lily. Your mother and I made a choice, a hard one, but mutual. I've always been there when you needed me, and right now, Evelyn needs me. Lily turned to me, her voice trembling. You're choosing him over us, your own daughter. I shook my head, tears prickling my eyes. I'm choosing myself, Lily. For the first time in years, the room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy. Lily grabbed her scarf, Nathan following. Fine, she said, her voice cold. Stay here, alone, in this crumbling house. But don't expect us to clean up the mess when it falls apart. They stormed out, the door slamming behind them. I sank back into my armchair, my heart pounding. Raymond sat beside me, his hand resting lightly on mine. You did good, Evie, he said quietly. You stood your ground. I nodded, but the victory felt hollow. My daughter, the girl I'd raised with every ounce of my love, had walked away. The house was safe, thanks to my mother's foresight, but at what cost? I looked at Raymond, his steady presence anchoring me. What now? I whispered. He squeezed my hand. Now, we make sure you live the life you want, one step at a time. The rain had stopped by the time Raymond and I sat down in my living room that evening, the silence heavy after Lily and Nathan's departure. The house felt like mine. Again, no boxes, no designer pillows, just the familiar creak of the floorboards and the faint scent of my roses drifting through the open window. But the victory was bittersweet. My daughter's words echoed in my mind. Don't expect us to clean up the mess. I looked at the fireplace, where a photo of Lily at her 5th birthday sought her grin wide, frosting on her nose. How had we come to this? Raymond stayed for 2 weeks, as promised. He was a quiet presence, steady in a way I'd forgotten he could be. He'd drive me to the grocery store, carry the heavy bags, and sit with me in the garden while I pruned my roses, my hands slow but determined. You've still got a way with those flowers, he said one afternoon, watching me snip a wilted bloom. I smiled, brushing dirt from my gloves. They're tougher than they look. Like me, I guess. He chuckled, and for a moment, it felt like the old days, when we'd laugh over coffee in this very house. It was Raymond who nudged me to return to gardening, not just tending my roses, but really diving in. You used to talk about turning the backyard into a proper garden, he said one evening, sipping tea by the fireplace. Why not now? I laughed, shaking my head. At 62, with these hands. But his words stuck like seeds planted in soft soil. The next day, I pulled out my mother's old gardening books, their pages yellowed but full of wisdom. I started smaller beds, a trellis for sweet peas, a patch for zucchini, each shovelful of dirt, each seedling tucked into the earth felt like a reclaiming of something I'd lost. Portland's spring arrived, painting the city in greens and pinks. My garden bloomed, and so did I. Susan, my friend from my teaching days, dragged me to a local gardening club at the community center. You need people, Evie, she said, her eyes twinkling, not just plants. I grumbled but went, and there I met Helen, a 70-year-old widow with a laugh that could wake the neighbors. She taught me how to graft roses, shared her recipe for compost tea, and invited me to air gardening sessions in the city parks. The club became my refuge's circle of gray-haired dreamers, swapping stories of blooms and battles with aphids. For the first time in years, I wasn't just Evelyn, the retired teacher, or Evelyn, Lily's mom. I was Evelyn, the gardener, the friend, the woman who laughed until her sides ached. Raymond's visits became a rhythm in my life. His company had opened a small office in Portland, and he decided to move here permanently, buying a modest bungalow 20 minutes away. Easier to keep an eye on things, he said, but his smile hinted at more. We'd cook dinner together, simple things, like roasted vegetables or salmon with dill. We'd walk in the park, arguing about which trees were prettiest, or sit in my living room, watching old movies. One night, as we laughed over a scene we'd seen 100 times, his hand brushed mine, lingering just a moment too long. My heart skipped, and I realized, at 62, I felt seen. Not as a mother or a patient, but as a woman. It was strange, thrilling, and a little terrifying. My health wasn't perfect. The arthritis flared twice in those 6 months, sending my joints into a painful lock. But I'd learned to listen to my body. Thanks to Dr. Larson's strict instructions and a medical alert bracelet, Raymond insisted I wear one. Press and help's on the way, he said, fastening it on my wrist. I rolled my eyes but kept it on. It was a small price for my independence, and I was determined to keep that above all else. 6 months after that awful hospital stay, I ran into Lily. It was at a flower show downtown, where I'd gone to browse dahlias and maybe buy a new trellis. I was admiring a vibrant orange bloom when I heard her voice, soft, hesitant, "Mom." I turned, and there she was, alone, her designer coat out of place among the muddy boots and gardening gloves. Her face was tired, dark circles under her eyes, her usual polish dulled. "You look different," she said, studying me. I'd lost a little weight, thanks to daily walks and a better diet. My hair, once a messy bun, was now a neat bob, chosen with Helen's help. I felt good, better than I had in years. "Thank you," I said, my voice cautious. "You look tired, Lily." She nodded, fidgeting with her purse. "Can we talk over coffee?" I hesitated. The memory of her car sold, vie still sharp, but something in her eyes, a flicker of the girl she'd been, made me agree. We sat at a cafe across the street, the hum of the flower show fading behind us. She ordered me chamomile tea, remembering my arthritis. A small gesture, but it softened me, just a little. "How's your health?" she asked, her voice tentative. "Stable," I said. "A couple of flares, but I'm managing." "Following the doctor's orders?" She nodded, staring into her coffee. "Nathan and we think about you, we worry." I raised an eyebrow, unable to hide my skepticism. 6 months, Lily, not a single call. That's a funny way to show worry. She flinched, her fingers tightening around her cup. "I know, I messed up. After everything. I didn't know if you'd want to hear from me." "You could have tried," I said, my voice low but firm. She looked down, her shoulders sagging. "I'm sorry, Mom. For the house, the car, all of it. It was wrong. We thought we were doing the right thing." I leaned back, studying her. "The right thing for me, or for your studio?" Her eyes widened, then dropped. "Both," she admitted. "The studio's struggling. We took a loan, poured everything into it, but it's not working. We're thinking of selling." I nodded, my heart torn between pity and wariness. "I'm sorry it's not going well," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't want her to fail. "But that doesn't change what you did." Lily's voice broke. "I miss you, Mom. I want us to start over." The words I'd longed to hear, but they came with a weight I couldn't ignore. I thought of her in the hospital corridor, planning my life without me. Of her voice on the phone, so cold, so final. "Lily," I said slowly, choosing my words, like I was pruning a delicate rose. "I miss you too. The you I raised, the you who loved this house as much as I did. But what you did wasn't a mistake. It was a betrayal. You tried to take my home, my choices, and call it care." Her eyes filled with tears, but I kept going. "Trust is hard to rebuild, and I'm not ready to pretend it's all okay. Not yet." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Can I call you? Just to check in?" I hesitated, then said, "You can try, but don't expect me to always answer. And, Lily, I'm not bailing out your studio. That's your path, not mine." She flinched, and I knew I'd guessed right. Part of her apology was tied to their financial mess. "I understand," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I hope someday you'll forgive me." I stood, my heart heavy but resolute. "Maybe someday," I said. "Take care of yourself, Lily." I walked away, the flower show's colors blurring through unshed tears. It hurt, but it felt right. I wasn't closing the door on her forever, but I was choosing me, back home. I stood in my garden, the evening sun casting golden light over my roses, my zucchini, my sweet peas climbing their trellis. Raymond was there, inspecting a new herb bed we'd planted together. "You okay?" he asked, seeing my face. I told him about Lily, every word, every ache. He listened, his eyes steady, then took my hand. "You did the right thing, Evie. You're not a bad mother for setting boundaries. You're a woman who knows her worth." His words settled over me like a warm blanket. I looked at my garden, at the life I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. I thought of my mother, who'd protected this house with her trust, and of Helen, Suzanne, the gardening club, who'd become my family when my own had faltered, and Raymond, who'd returned not as a husband, but as a friend, maybe something more. At 62, I was bloomin' again. Like my roses after a long winter. Home isn't just a place, it's the space you carve out for yourself, where your heart feels whole. I'd spent years giving pieces of myself to others, thinking that's what love meant. But love starts with you, with knowing your worth, with fighting for your choices, even when it hurts. Forgiveness is a journey, not a debt you owe. And at any age, you can plant new seeds, watch them grow, and find joy in the life you choose to live.